Good evening, everyone. Dr. Rivera, will you please lead us in prayer?
Yes, sir. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this beautiful day of life you gave us today, and wish you to continue giving us beautiful days like this. And we thank you also for the blessings that we received today and during our lifetime, and for those that you have in store for us the rest of our lives. But most of all, we thank you for that unconditional love you have for us. We ask you to continue to bless this institution, SWTJC, faculty, staff, board, students, and be with us tonight as we make decisions, open our minds and our hearts to make decisions that are going to be a benefit to our students, our institution, our faculty, staff, and especially our taxpayers. And we ask in Jesus Christ's name, amen.
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 The meeting of the Board of Trustees of Southwest Texas Junior College will please come to order. Dr. Rivera, will you please read the minutes of November 17, 2020 board meeting,
Yes.
please, sir?
Yes, sir. The Board of Trustees of Southwest Texas Junior College met in regular session November 17, 2020 via Zoom. Board President Rodolfo Outflow has called the meeting to order at 7:15 p.m. Board members present were Rodolfo Outflow as president, Dr. Harry O. Watkins, vice president, Dr. Antonio Escrivera, secretary, Maria Lara, Victor Lopez, Tony T. Moreno, and Adira Shackelford. Also present was Dr. Hector Gonzalez, president of the college. The minutes of the October 15, 2020 regular meeting were read and approved as presented by Dr. Antonio Escrivera, secretary. Board President Flores welcomed guests at the meeting, which included college personnel, Ann Tarski and Margot Mata. Audience and patrons were none. A motion was made by Victor Lopez and seconded by Dr. Harry O. Watkins to canvass the results of the November 3, 2020 Southwest Texas Junior College trustee election. The motion carried. After canvassing results of the Southwest Texas Junior College trustee election held Saturday, November 3rd, 2020, Tony T. Moreno was declared winner for place 4 over Brian Hernandez, and for place 5, unopposed candidate Rodolfo R. Flores was declared winner. Dr. Antonio Rivera, secretary of the board, administered the statement of elected appointed officer to the winners and also administered the oath of office. A copy of the canvass results is attached. Acting on reorganization of the board members, a motion was made by Victor Lopez and second by Annette Shackelford to keep the present slate of officers. Motion carried, copies attached. Title IX report was presented by Margot Mata. The president report presented by Dr. Hector Gonzalez. A motion was made by Nita Shackelford and second by Victor Lopez to approve the financial statement as of October 31st, 2020, as presented by Ann Starsky. Motion carried unanimously, and the copy was attached. Motion was made by Tony T. Moreno and second by Victor Lopez to extend the Texas bookstore lease 5 years and continue with the commission rate of 9%. Motion carried unanimously, and a copy is attached. The motion was made by Tony T. Moreno and second by Anita Shackelford. Allocated votes for Uvalde County Appraisal District, 75 for John T. Buchanan and 75 for Javier Flores. Motion carried unanimously, and a copy is attached. After convening an open session, Board President Flores called the board into executive session at 7:50 p.m. to consider A, employees terminated, resigned, retired, new hires, and transfers under the Texas Code number 551.074. At 8 p.m., the SWTJC board reconvened in regular session. With no further business or action items to discuss, Anita Shackelford make the motion to adjourn. Maria Elena Lara second the motion. The motion carried at 8:02 p.m.
Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes? If not,
Mr. Flores,
yes,
on the canvassing results, was that Saturday? Is that, that's not the 3rd, is it? Shouldn't that be
Tuesday. That's a typo, yeah. We'll correct that.
correct, okay. Any other comments?
Just got one comment. I noticed in the newspaper, they kept putting me in place 5. And I don't know why, but I've always been place 4.
That's correct.
But the newspaper articles all throughout the election, they kept putting me place 5. I don't know why. I meant to call them to correct them, but anyway. But yeah, we have it correct on the deal, on our minutes. That's it.
Any other corrections? If not, the minutes will stand approved as corrected. Our guests, I see we have Connie Buchanan and Ann Tarski, and who else do we have?
Margot Mata and Eric Eid,
Thank you
and
for being with us.
Ismael Martinez.
Thank you for being with us. Do we have any audience to patrons?
None, sir.
Next item is consider an act on 2019-2020 audit financial statement.
Okay.
Audited financial statement, please. Eric or?
Good deal. You should have a copy of the audit report in your packet. If you'll turn to page 6. This is our audit opinion. You received an unmodified opinion again this year. This is the best opinion you can receive. That in our opinion, the financial statements are presented fairly in conformity with general accepted accounting principles as of the end of your year, August 31st, 2020, with comparison to 2019. Again, this is the best opinion you could receive. On the next page, we have the management discussion and analysis. This is the same information that's in the body of the financial statements, but it's presented in a graphical and narrative format. It has pie charts of your revenues and expenditures. Again, it's the same information, but if you're like me, pictures mean more to you than numbers. It's a good way of looking at it. It also has, towards the end of it, some of the things that the college has coming up in the future year, places for the college to tell the readers of the financial statements what's going on, other than the financial aspects of your junior college. If you will turn to page 22, this starts the body of the financial statements. This is the statement of net position. As you'll see, we have on the far right-hand side of the page, we have 2019, and then the column to the left of that is your 2020. Top of our page is our assets, the middle is our liabilities, and the bottom is our net position. Going down our assets, we had total current assets at the end of the year of $12,186,000 as opposed to $10 million in the prior year. Our non-current assets, we had $44,500,000 as opposed to $45,272,000 in the prior year. Our total assets were basically around the same. We had about a $700,000 increase over the prior year. $56,710,413. The middle part there, the deferred outflow for resources, this is all dealing with the pension and the other post-employment benefits that we've been facing for the last 4 years now, I guess. It kills our net position. The deferred outflow of resources this year was $12,461,000 as opposed to $13,289,000 in the prior year. Our current liabilities, we had $10,100,000 as opposed to $10,006,000 in the prior year, pretty much spot on. Same thing for our non-current liabilities, $56 million as opposed to $55. Our total liabilities were just about exactly the same as they were in the prior year, $66,243,000. Then we have our deferred inflows for our pensions and our other post-employment benefits, $10,064,000. When we subtract our liabilities and our deferred inflows from our assets and deferred outflows, we have net positions at the end of the year that is a negative $7,135,000. Again, if you remember, most of this is because of being hit with the pension liability and the other post-employment benefits liability. If you'll go up in the liability section, you can see that, the total of that is $26 million for the other post-employment benefits and almost $9 million for the pension liability. So without that, we would be sitting with a pretty good net position. Again, this is not anything that you're not alone in this. All other community colleges, all school districts are in the same boat. that the majority of them do have a net position because of that. So don't feel alone in that. On the next page, page 23, is a foundation report, which we'll skip because I assume we're going to go into a foundation later. Okay, well, we'll skip this and we'll go over that when we go into the foundation. On page 24, this is our statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in net position. Follows the same format. We have fiscal year 2020 and then fiscal year 2019 there for comparison. Top part of our page is operating revenues, operating expenses, our net operating loss, and then our increase and decrease in net position. So our total operating revenues this year were $10,636,000 as opposed to $15,450,000 in the prior year. You can see up there at the very top, our tuition was $7.5 million in the prior year as opposed to $4.4 million this year. Operating expenses were about $1 million higher than they were in the prior year, $42,706,000 as opposed to $41,719,000. Gives us an operating loss at the end of the year of $32,070,000. Again, this is a kind of a unique term to the coordinating board. They don't allow us to put in the state allocations and the federal money. So it's not really an operating loss, but this is what we're dealt. So we have to deal it this way. Down below that, you see we have what they call non-operating revenues, which are state allocation, our ad valorem taxes, our federal revenues. And those amounts came to $32,922,000 as opposed to $27,251,000 in the prior year. The big increase there this year was our federal revenue was $17 million as opposed to $12 million in the prior year. When we subtract all of those expenses from our operating loss, we come up with an increase in our net position for the year of $852,641. You can see last year we had about a $982,000 increase, so pretty much spot on with what we had in the prior year. Of course, we have a negative net position, so that does basically come back and increase so that we have a total net position at the end of the year of negative $7,135,429. This would probably be a good spot to tell you that I went back and looked in the past 5 years, and over the past 5 years, you've had an increase in your net position of $3.8 million. So this is pretty much you've been kind of cranking along about a $900,000 to $700,000 increase every year. So all in all, we're building that fund balance back up. So. If you will turn to page 26, this is your statement of cash flows. Again, we have comparisons to the prior year. And what this does is convert everything back to a cash basis so we can see where our cash came from and where it went. We had $29 million that was used by operating activities. We had $33 million that came in an increase in cash because of non-financing activities, which was your state appropriation, your property taxes. We also then had to spend $3.2 million for capital assets and debt payments. And then we had a net of $130,000 on our investing activities. So at the bottom line, at the end of the year, our cash increased by $572,729. Then on the next few pages, or really about the next 20 pages, I guess, is our notes to the financial statements. Every year, these notes get longer and longer. These are the notes that are required by generally accepted accounting principles. If we want to spend the next 4 hours, I can go through those with you, or we can just skip them. So if you'll turn to page, good. Okay. If you'll turn to page 72, this is breaking down our operating revenues more in detail. Again, this is on page 72. And again, we have over the top of the page, we have it broken down between unrestricted, restricted, And then we have our totals for 2020 and then totals for 2019. So I'm just going to go over the totals pages on the right-hand side. You can see our tuition this year was $14,772,000 as opposed to $15 million in the prior year. You can go down there and look and see that the decrease was out of district tuition went from 5.9 to it was 6.1 in the prior year. Again, in our state funding continuing education, I got a feeling a lot of this had to do with COVID. Is that correct? We had 1.172 in the prior year as opposed to 685 this year. Our fees were increased this year. We had $6,340,000 worth of fees as opposed to $6 million in the prior year. And then we have to deduct off for our scholarships and allowances. And of course, this year we had quite a bit more. That was $16,650,000 that we had to subtract off as opposed to $13 million in the prior year. A lot of that is because we did receive more federal funding. So therefore, if we have more federal funding, we're going to have more scholarships. So those two go hand in hand together. And then our other operating revenues, we had $5.5 million this year as opposed to $6.9 in the prior year. And then our bookstore and dorms, we had $663,000 as opposed to $956 in the prior year. Again, we had a pretty sizable decrease in our operating revenues. However, the non-operating revenues, the federal revenues, brought it up so that we did not have as near of a hit to our fund balance as we thought we were going to have. On the next page, page 73, we have our schedule of operating expenses by object. Again, we have our salaries, benefits, other expenses, and then the total for the year, and then a comparison with the prior year. So you can see our total unrestricted educational activities were pretty much right on with what we had in the prior year. We had $28,428,000 as opposed to $28,800,000 in the prior year. Our restricted educational activities, $11 million for expenses this year as opposed to 9.6 in the prior year. Again, our total $39,558,000 as opposed to $38,498,000 in the prior year. And then we have our auxiliary income and then our depreciation on our buildings improvements, furniture and fixture. Bottom line, our total operating expenses for the year were $42,706,471 as opposed to $41,719,000 in the prior year. If you will turn to page 74, this is your schedule of non-operating revenues. We had total state appropriations this year of $10,613,000 as opposed to $9,770,000 in the prior year. And then the non-operating is where we get our big increase. Like I said before, if you look there, we had $33,913,000 this year as opposed to $28 million in the prior year. About a $5 million increase in our federal revenue this year. Total non-operating revenue, $32,922,000 as opposed to $27 million in the prior year. If you will turn to page 76, because you received more than $750,000 worth of federal funds, we're required to do what's called a single audit. And these are the federal programs that where you receive federal money from. We'll have to list those. And then on the next page is the state award, 78. We have to list the state awards that you receive. Because you did have a single audit on page 80, we're required to do a little extra work for you. And we're required to give you a report on your internal controls in accordance with governmental auditing standards. And again, happy to report that there were no findings of internal control issues or compliance issues with your overall audit performed in accordance with governmental auditing standards. Then on the next page, page 82, we're required to go more into depth on your major programs because we do pick one of your major programs, which this year was your Pell program, and we do more internal controls and more compliance testing on that particular program. And what this opinion is saying is that, again, nothing came to our attention in relation to that one program that needed to be brought to your attention as far as a compliance issue or problems with your internal control. And then on page 84 is a schedule of findings and question cost. I'm happy to report that you did not have any findings and question costs. This is what we want. Like I said, we did use do an audit of the Pell program this year, the Student Financial Aid Cluster. Also, you received some CARE student aid this year, which we also used as a major program this year. Then on page 85 starts the statistical supplements. These are the statistical reports that are required by the coordinating board. These are unaudited statements. Ann, did you have anything you want to bring into this about these?
No, I think the major thing to concentrate on is the increase in unrestricted fund balance.
Right.
We were very pleased to have over a $2 million increase in unrestricted fund balance.
Right.
I'm sorry, that's wrong. Right up.
Like I said, it's you're showing a pretty good trend. Like I say, over the last 5 years, I think the fifth year back, I think we had a decrease in our fund balance, but overall, like I say, when you look at a 5 years total, we had almost $3.8 million put to the fund balance this year. Again, or over those 5 years, very, very good. Part of our procedures is we go through and we do a testing of your expenditures to make sure that those items are properly accounted for with signatures, internal controls. Again, everything came spot on. I would want to take my time to thank your staff because of especially this time, the IT department, because they're really valuable right now, and they helped me get through some of the issues I had because we had to do all this remotely, which was new. You probably are one of the few entities in the area that was set up for remote because you had gone pretty much to a paperless system before, so it made it real easy to do the audit remotely. But again, the staff they went above and beyond to help me out whenever I had issues, and I really appreciate that. But that's going through it pretty fast. Any questions? Again, the bottom line is we had about a $900,000 increase to our fund balance.
That's a real plus.
Any questions or comments? Thank you, Eric. We'll entertain a motion.
So move.
A second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Next item is consider an act on one-time stipend for full-time employees.
Yes, sir. This is item number 6 in your board packet. And as we were adjusting or working on budgets this summer, we mentioned that we would like to revisit salaries or adjustment in December, pending the results of our audit and the results of our operations for the fall semester. And we're recommending a $400 per full-time employee one-time stipend to be paid in December. We currently have 388 full-time employees for a cost of $155,200.
That includes
Comments?
all employees, the janitor, the teachers, everybody.
All full-time.
Okay. Move to accept the recommendation.
We'll
I'll
entertain a
second.
motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Thank you so much. Our employees will be very appreciative for the approval of this stipend for them.
They're very deserving. All the board feels that way.
Mr. Flores, after we adjourn this one, we'll go into the foundation meeting.
We'll entertain a motion.
Move that we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Second.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Now we'll go into the meeting of the Southwest Texas Junior College Foundation, Inc. and call this meeting to order. And thank you all the guests for being present. And Dr. Rivera, will you please read the minutes of the December 11th, 2019 meeting, please, sir?
Yes, sir. The Board of Directors of Southwest Texas Junior College Foundation Incorporated met in a meeting December 11, 2019 in the Matthew Student Center, Blue Bonnet Room. Board President Rothar Flores called the meeting to order at 7:58 p.m. Board members present were Rothar Flores President, Dr. Antonio Rivera Secretary, Maria Elena Lara, Victor Lopez, Tony T. Moreno, and Anita Shackford. Board member absent was Dr. Harry Watkins, Vice President. Also present was Dr. Hector Gonzalez, President of the college. Board President Flores welcomed guests at the meeting, which included college personnel and guests from the regular meeting. The minutes of the April 18, 2019 Foundation meeting were read and approved as presented by Dr. Antonio Rivera, Secretary. A motion was made by Maria Elena Lara and second by Anita Shackford to approve the 2018-2019 audited financial statement. Motion carried unanimously and the copy is attached. With no further business, Anita Shackford made the motion to adjourn. Tony T. Moreno seconded the motion, and the motion carried at 8:03 p.m.
Any questions or comments? Not, the minutes will stand approved as read. Next item is consider an act on 2019-2020 audited financial statement. Eric, please.
Okay, you should have a copy of the foundation audit in your packet also. If you'll turn to page 2, this is our audit opinion. Again, you received an unmodified opinion, which is the best opinion you can receive, that in our opinion, the financial statements of Southwest Texas Junior College Foundation are presented in conformity with generally accepted accounting principles as of the end of your year, August 31st, 2020, with comparison to 2019. Again, the best opinion you can receive. Page 3 is your comparative statement of financial position. Top part of our page is assets. Bottom is our liabilities and net assets. We had total current assets at the end of the year of $508,000. Our long-term investments were $400,000. Our furniture, equipment, and land and building net of depreciation was $8,347,000, giving us total assets of $9,255,808, as opposed to $9,522,000 in the prior year. Our current liabilities, we have total current liabilities of $328,000 as opposed to $317,000 in the prior year. Our long-term debt had gone down. We had long-term debt at the end of the year of $675,000 as opposed to $866,000 in the prior year. Our total net assets at the end of the year are $8,252,347.84 as opposed to $8,338,723 in the prior year. We'll turn the page to page 4. This is the comparative statement of activities. We have our revenue at the top, our expenses, and the net assets at the bottom of the page. For the year, we had total revenues of $259,303 as opposed to $242 in the prior year. The difference there mainly was we had an increase in our rental income, but we had a decrease in our investment revenue on the mutual funds that are being held. Our total expenses, $345,679 as opposed to $360 in the prior year. When we subtract our expenses from our revenues, we had a decrease in our net assets for the year of $86,375.90, giving us our ending net assets of $8,252,000. On the next page is our schedule of cash flows. Again, this is converting everything back to a cash basis to show you where your cash came from and where it went. We had $209,000 that was brought in by operating activities cash-wise. We spent 66 of that to pay down on our short-term investments. We had $180,000 that was used to pay down our principal on our debt. So we had a decrease in cash for the year of $37,868. Again, on page 6 starts the notes of the financial statements. Again, these are the notes that are required by general accepted accounting principles. One thing I'd like to point out, if you'll turn to page 8, this is showing your schedule of long-term debt. And you can see that you're getting pretty close to paying these debts off. We only got another 5 years and your debt will be completely paid off for the foundation.
Questions or comments? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
Move
I
to
move
accept
we
the
approve.
report.
All in favor, say aye.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. We'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
Move we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? We'll adjourn. Thank you again.